I've got the 3 normal summons of our deck. Yes, I said 3 normal summons and one of them's a spell. I think you can understand why. Red Eyes Fusion takes away our normal summons, so it is essentially an extra normal summon. And if you've looked at Yu-Gi-Oh! Mathematic, like deck building breakdowns and theories, you'll know that 5 is the magic number of how many normal summons you want to always see one in your opening hand. So yeah, it's kind of getting hard to juggle the ratios of Dark Magician cards to play. So anyway, I thought I'd make this little pros and cons guide just to kind of give you an idea on what you should be playing. Or just to prove what's good and what's bad. Anyway, let's go. Alright, now that I'm out of the way, let's look at Magician's Rod. Now, Magician's Rod's great because it recycles itself. That is a massive thing. The second thing is it can find that missing piece. So if you do open up Circle, it can grab you Salvation or Eternal Soul. Or if you don't have anything, it can at least get you Soul Servant. And that's pretty good, but you do need to have something else with that. If you have your Magician's Souls with it, then it's good. Now the cons, of course, being what I pretty much just said, it is kind of useless by itself. Yes, you can search Soul Servant and link it off for Artemis and flip that Soul Servant on the opponent's turn to recycle itself. That's nice. But a lot nicer would be getting to Anaconda Dragoon or just getting to Circle Eternal Soul. The other underlying problem with Magician's Rod is it loses to a lot of hand traps. It loses to Imperm, Vela, Gamma, Ash. So, you know, that's a large chunk of hand traps that hit Rod. Now, of course, sometimes you want them to hand trap your Rod just so your Anaconda effect will resolve. So some players won't hand trap you on Rod. Smart players will save their negate for Anaconda, and that's where you're going to hope you have your Sky Striker Eagle Booster or your Saw Ravis Ritual Dragon Monster or that kind of scenario. Anyway, Rod is not bad, and the more I test, the more I like Rod more. Alright, don't get me wrong. I love this guy. Magician's Rod is great. But you got to admit he's got his flaws. Like, he doesn't really get anywhere by himself. I've always wanted something like a Rhoda that he can search. Unfortunately, Illusion of Chaos came along. But fortunately for us, this card's amazing and it's searchable off prep. So like, I'm not going to complain. This card's amazing, right? But I kind of wanted it in a spell form for a number of reasons. One, so Circle can add it, just give Circle some more relevance. Two, we could even play Dark Magic Inheritance maybe at that point if we had a way to just fill the grave with spells. But apparently Konami wants us to have it as a ritual monster, which isn't the blue monster I wanted. I did want to link one, but once again, this card's amazing, so I ain't talking shit. This is what I think we need, though. This is ultimately what we need. A Dark Magician Fusion card that acts exactly like Red Eyes Fusion, except for Dark Magician. Why this would be nuts is people would actually fear Rod, right? People would want to hand trap Rod the same way they want to hand trap Alistair. And then if we had the Dark Magician Fusion in the hand anyway, they'd feel like an idiot, right? You normal summon Rod, use the effect, they chain Ash Blossom. Cool. You play the Dark Magician Fusion card from your hand. Boom. You've got yourself Dragoon or Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. It doesn't matter what you summon, your opponent's going to be sad. It's similar to the whole Alistair invocation thing where you think whether you want to hand trap the Meltdown or the Alistair, and you're like, oh, do they just have the other part? It would be exactly like that, and I think it is what the deck needs, but anyway, let's move on to the next card. We're going to look at Diviner next. Now, Diviner is the latest hype in the Dark Magician deck building community. We've seen that it's a one-card starter, as in it gets us to Anaconda just by itself. Not only that, you can, instead of sending Herald from the extra deck, you can instead send something like Elder Entity Natis, which means you could pop a card. You could instead send something else to modulate its level in a different way if you wanted to make a sync play. We've seen you can make Beatrice with it and Magician Soul summoning Dark Magician Girl. We've seen you can make Tzolk'in and go into Crystal Wing if you have a card to set with it. So there's a lot of options for Diviner. It's very flexible, I want to say. The lackluster thing about Diviner, similar to Rod, it loses to all those hand traps we mentioned earlier. And that really fucking sucks, considering it's a format where a lot of people are main decking Impermanent Vela. Not really ideal. Alright, it's time we speak about Diviner. Now, Diviner is our nifty new toy, and it's super fun to play with because it actually has more of a combo feel to it than the traditional Dark Magician of normal summoning Rod. Now, Rod is still played in the deck. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are kind of stressing out about that. Don't worry, guys. We still play Rod. But Diviner's got some nifty tricks. Now, most of the time when you normal summon Diviner, you are just going to be sending the Herald of the Arclight right here. Now, this card just says when it's hits the grave, you can add yourself a ritual spell or monster. And 90% of the time, I feel like you're just going to be grabbing this guy, because who doesn't like grabbing this guy? Illusion of Chaos is a great card, and this means we can just grab Magician Souls off this, or even Apprentice Illusion Magician if we already have Magician Souls, or even Timaeus. You can even grab Broadiford. Of course, you've already normaled at this point, but hey, if your hand's that good, you can go for your setup for next turn. Anyway, coming back to Herald. Herald, if you already have Magician Souls in the hand, works out great because instead of adding yourself the Illusion of Chaos, you're going to go straight for this bad boy, which I'm currently testing at 1, and I think it's the right way to play it. Now, you can play any ritual spell because it adds any, but I think this is the best one for our deck. Now, the reason being, Advanced Ritual Arts says, I'm not sure if you can see the text, it might be blurry, but basically it says you can send from your deck to grave a vanilla that equals the exact same level as a ritual monster in your hand. So you play it and you send Dark Magician to the grave and you summon your Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos on the field, once again, I'm not sure if you can read the text, so I'll explain it, but it basically says when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can return him to the hand, which is where you want him, and then summon Dark Magician in his place, and you get to negate that effect. So absolutely clutch effect, and it synergizes really well with the deck because this deck constantly loses our hand advantage. So the fact that it comes back to your hand and replaces itself with a body, while it's only Dark Magician, it's at least a body. It might trigger your circle. It might be useful in some other manner. So I really do rate summoning this card. I just thought it was kind of impossible to do using like secrets or something. That would go like neg 3 in card advantage, neg 2 to 1. Anyway, the point is, we can actually summon this card or just use it as an extender to make Anaconda after we've gone through Tzolk'in and Crystal Wing stuff. So Diviner is actually proving to be kind of nuts in my testing. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys like it too. Let's move on. Now, Rod and Diviner are normal summons themselves, so once you've committed them to the board, you unfortunately cannot play this last card, which is Red Eyes Fusion. This is our best normal summon, I want to say, in the deck. While I think Rod and Magician Souls are better because they get you to Anaconda plus 2 draws off Soul Servant, Red Eyes Fusion is strictly better because it has more of a chance to actually resolve. And I know that's a bit of a controversial take, and a lot of people are like, oh, but if you get Ash Blossom, like, you can't play. And that's true. But guess what? If you get Ash Blossomed in this deck anyway, you're probably not going too far. Now, of course, Anaconda can't be Ash Blossom. Alright, what I'm trying to get at here is this card doesn't lose to all the hand traps mentioned earlier. It doesn't lose to Imperm, it doesn't lose to Veiler, it doesn't even lose to Dimensional Shifter because it doesn't mention anything about sending to grave. If you get Dimensional Shifted, you cannot actually use Magician Souls, it really sucks. Red Eyes Fusion doesn't care about that. Now, of course, it'll banish your Red Eyes and your Dark Magician, which is a little bit of a problem if you have Eternal Soul and whatnot, but you're getting 2 Dragoons still, which is where you normally want to go. Now, the other pros of this card, as well as playing around nearly every hand trap in the game besides Ash, it's a 1-card Dragoon, which means the rest of your hand is 4 cards. It can be hand traps, it can be strong traps, it can unfortunately be like your other monsters and extenders. That can happen too, but playing Red Eyes Fusion at 3 has always just seemed like the right choice to me, and the amount of games I win in tournaments because of it has just proven to me it should be at 3. It steals you games when you should be losing. It's a very good top deck, and yes, people do say, oh, but if you've already resolved one, the other copies are dead. Well, yeah, that's very true, but it's still one of the absolute best cards in the deck. Red Eyes Fusion is amazing, and yes, you can't activate the 2nd and 3rd copy. There are ways to maneuver around that. You can send them for draws with Magician Souls. You could discard them for Apprentice Illusion. The only downside of Red Eyes Fusion, of course, is those scenarios where you do get ashed, and look, you just move on to the next game 99% of the times in those games. And, of course, the path of playing Red Eyes Fusion is very linear, so it's a little bit boring. It can be a little bit tedious if you've just been using Red Eyes Fusion and setting 3 cards all the time. It's a little bit boring. So anyway, with all of these cards in mind, I honestly still think the strongest opening for Dark Magician is Magician's Rod and Magician Souls, but in the current format, because everybody's playing Imperm and Veiler to hit Sword Soul, to hit Flunder, to hit Phantom Knights, I really do think it's better to play Red Eyes Fusion. I really do think Red Eyes Fusion at 3 is the play. Divine is a great card too, do not get me wrong. I am having fun testing with it. And not to mention, it is quite a pricey card right now, while Red Eyes Fusion and Magician's Rod are very, very cheap. But that is only if you wanted to take budget into account, which I'm trying not to for this analysis. Hey guys, Future LOZA here once again, just to finish off this video and say yes, I do believe Red Eyes Fusion is still the optimal play for the format, and that's because people are dropping Ash from their builds to play more stuff like Gamma, Imperm, and Vela to stop decks like Sword Soul, Flunder, PK, Tri-Brigade Birds. Everything in the meta pretty much doesn't care too much about Ash. Sword Soul, for example, is probably the most common deck you'll see in a tournament of a competitive environment, and Ash Blossom does nothing against that deck, to be honest. It's really bad. They can chain block their important effects, so it's a bit of a yikes. So that's one reason why I think Red Eyes Fusion is actually the best card for summoning Dragoon currently. Don't get me wrong, Anaconda, amazing card. Just everyone's playing out for it at the moment. I do think Magician's Rod and Magician's Souls are the best ways to summon Dragoon because you get to grab that Soul Servant and refill your hand by banishing to draw two. Just the downside of you're playing into every hand trap in the world in the current format. So, this is my hot take. I don't know a lot of. Some people agree with me that ref is the way, and some people hate it. But especially for this format, guys, where people are kind of hating Ash, you need to be playing this card at 3. One other thing to add, Preparation of Rites and Illusion of Chaos. They are new cards we should be playing at 3 or 2, and they are very ashable. People will ash them left, right, and center. I don't think they should. I don't think Prep should ever be ashed. I don't think Illusion Chaos should ever be ashed because that actually just stays in the hand when it does get ashed, similar to Gamma. But the point is, people will ash these cards, especially when we're trying out the new support. They won't know what to hit, so you may get hit with an ash there. And Prep and Illusion of Chaos do not commit anything to the field, and that doesn't conflict with Red Eyes Fusion at all. So you can actually try to bait out your opponent's ash by playing your cards like Sky Striker Engage, Preparation of Rites, and Illusion of Chaos. Once you've done all of those cards, if they still haven't ashed you, sure, you can go for your normal summon Rod or your normal summon Diviner, but just note that if they ash you at any point before then, cool, you can just slap down Ref and go, alright, here's Dragoon. My final thing I'll say is that Red Eyes Fusion mixed with Chalice or Droplets is just game against some decks, guys. Sometimes you just gotta slap down Red Eyes Fusion, they'll try to negate it with one of their Omni Negates, you chain your Chalice or Droplets, sending the Red Eyes Fusion and whatever else from your hand, GG. You summon out Dragoon, you go pop pop, you swing for game. It happens so often. Games are finished quickly by Red Eyes Fusion going second. I'll never stop playing it at 3, guys. It's honestly won me that many tournament games. So many tournament games I will top deck this card and just win when I really shouldn't have. It's crazy. So I think you always have to play cards like that at the maximum number. Anyway, thanks for listening to my rants once again, and I'll catch you guys soon.